I would expect a similar kind of trend for Loveland once he does get back on the field. But that's really all I got on him.
Yeah, Loveland, that is, he did not practice today.
Yeah.
So he not looking great. It doesn't affect Cole Kmet. Like anybody out there is like, well, maybe Cole Kmet's a start. Cole Kmet has been getting over 90% of the snaps anyway, over 90% of the route runs anyway. It hasn't mattered. It hasn't produced. Last week, people were like, oh, he scored a touchdown. He had one catch for 8 yards for that touchdown. That was it. He's not part of this passing game attack. He's out there to block, nothing more. So Loveland does not open up Cole Kmet as a streaming option, in my opinion. Jatavian Sanders is banged up. Michael Mayer is banged up. What do you have on them?
Sanders, I think, has a high ankle sprain that happened last week. So not good news there. Probably going to be a few weeks. Don't know what he did. I think he's been held out of practice all week. And same thing with Mayer. He's a concussion, and I don't think he's been back to practice as of yet, at least not enough to get cleared. So we'll have to keep an eye on those guys.
Yeah, and now typically I wouldn't bring up guys who are so low down on the fantasy football list for most teams. But Mayer in particular, I wanted to make sure we talked about, because what we saw was great news for Brock Bowers, not for Mayer, but for Bowers. So the problem Bowers has mostly been having these first few weeks is that Chip Kelly is up to his idiotic Chip Kelly ways and splitting up tight ends for absolutely no reason. We saw him do this back in Philadelphia when Zach Ertz was in his prime and he was splitting targets with Brent Selleck, and there we were. And nobody could eat as a result to it. You wanted to play an Eagles tight end, but you didn't know which one to do. If you could just morph from the one to be an elite tight end, and we couldn't get that because he had to split both of them. Well, not to quite to that extent, but to some degree, we've been seeing that with the Raiders, with Michael Mayer playing a lot more in certain situations where Brock Bowers is actually off the field entirely. Why you're taking your best offensive weapon off the field as much as they are, I have no idea. It makes no sense. But again, Chip Kelly is not a good offensive mind, hasn't been for a long time. I don't know why people forgot about this. But Mayer goes out with his injury. Bowers goes back to being a full-time player. And what do you know? Bowers has his best game of the year. So as long as Michael Mayer's out, Bowers is probably back to being the number one tight end overall. You're going to get the production you were hoping for when you drafted him. You can't sell high because tight ends is such a crapshoot. So even Bowers with Mayer there, his floor is still top 5 tight end anyway. But it's look forward to getting what you drafted for him, at least while Mayer's out. And maybe that'll trigger something in Chip Kelly's brain like, hey, you know what? Maybe this guy should be on the field more.